Yes, I
No,
am.
he's definitely
Yes,
not.
I
think we need
am.
to
No, you're
ignite
not.
I have a
some
neck roll
fire,
on right
Alex.
now.
No, you're not. You're not excited. I can tell in your voice, and I don't know how I feel about this right now because
I think
no, dude,
this is offensive line voice bias because you're like, I'm an offensive lineman, man. Let's play. I don't have that. I have more of like, I'm a reporter. I go into the locker room voice. So it's that's your bias, but we're very excited. All right, Alex, where do you want to start with this? I mean, did you just immediately forget about everything you saw on Sunday because it was an affront to the National Football League and move on to Chicago like we did, or did you have things that you learned?
Oh no, there was definitely things I learned. Some good, some bad, but at the end of the day, this game coming up this week is going to be epic. And I don't think people understand how epic it's going to be
How come?
because you have a defense that is just primed and destroying people, and now you have a run game on offense that is just kicking people's teeth in, and it's like, well, which one's going to move? Because you can't have both on the same day. Somebody's going to get ran over, and who's it going to be? That's the big question.
All right, I'm not matching your intensity. You're right.
See, you don't get it because I'm looking at this game and I'm like, man, if you lose this game, you really go back in the North. You don't just go back, you go way back, behind the Lions almost. Like, do you really want to go back that far? You better wake up quickly.
Well, let's start here then, because it feels like there's a lot of similarities, at least in teeing up this game, that we can draw from the way Mitchell Trubisky performed on Monday Night Football and kind of the kid glove approach that Matt Nagy took there.
Right.
And how Kirk Cousins did exactly what they needed him to do, nothing more, nothing less, against the Raiders, and how that's going to translate into, like, can he do that? Is that going to even be possible? Against the Bears in order for them to win. So, like, let's start with that question. Like, what do you think Kirk Cousins needs to do in order for the Vikings to walk away with a win at Soldier Field, which, is notoriously a really tough place for them?
I think the one thing he has to absolutely do is take care of that football. If you don't take care of that ball, even if it's one time, that's your chance right there. That's your game. You've thrown that game away. This defense, and even for me to think about this, because I'm still not wrapping my brain around the fact that people legitimately think Chicago's good, and it's really only because their defense can actually score points. So now you have two offenses on one team because you're like, well, we're going to count for our defense to score at least 35 points this year, maybe 42. I don't know. We'll push the envelope a little bit. That's like a whole nother offense. That's Miami right now. No joke. That's Miami. So you're saying, hey, listen, there's two offenses on one team. And not only that, but they can really get after the quarterback, and they like to do it. And they stop the run. This is just, if Kirk really wants to go in and win this game, you cannot turn the ball over any which way.
So here's my question for you, Alex. How important is this to Kirk Cousins to put on a good performance here? Because I don't think anybody in that locker room could be overly impressed by what happened against the Raiders or what happened against the Atlanta Falcons. I'm not saying I could do it, but Sean Mannion might have been able to do it.
I agree.
But against Green Bay, you could see in the body language on the sideline after the interception, a lot of the players going, here we go again with this guy, the same stuff that he did last year. I think this is huge for Kirk Cousins for the rest of the season because there will be a lot of games with this level of intensity.
Well, not only that, but I want to know, how do you really think the defense feels? Because they're going into these games and they're like, man, you know what? We're kind of catching a break. We're playing Oakland. I mean, Derek Carr just threw that game away. I mean, what were you? The whole game was just mind blowing to me. Where are you throwing the ball?
Agreed.
These out routes, these 2-yard out routes, and it's like, you got to stop. Like, eventually you have to take the deep ball. You have to take the risk of losing the game. As an offensive lineman, I almost would love a quarterback that was like, you know what, guys? I'm sick of these 5-yard out routes. I'm going for it. I'd be like, you know what? Throw it up there, dude. You heave that thing, and I'll protect you. Like, I used to say that to quarterbacks all the time. You throw it up there, I got your back. And I would stand in front of them in an interception. Like, dude, I'll take it. Because I could respect it. I don't want to see these silly little out routes anymore and these tight ends and they're they fell out of bounds. Oh my God, please make a play. But to what we were talking about, I almost forgot what we were talking about.
I felt the same way in the press box. I was like depressed watching that game. Like,
well, it felt like the preseason.
Come on. We called it the preseason for Derek Carr because you were playing like, let's just not like anybody get hurt was basically how the Raiders were trying to play on offense.
That's what it was. And you know what it was? They were trying to look at where's Everson, where's Daniil.
Right.
Because the whole game, it felt like to me, Derek was like, I need to get rid of this ball right now.
Yes.
And you saw what happened when he did it. He got hit hard. And there was a couple times, I don't know if anyone saw this, but Ev did his epic
spin
spin
move.
move.
Yes, on
Yeah.
Colt Miller.
On
Yes.
Colt Miller. And one time, Richie was so late to get out there that he ended up hitting Colton off of Ev. And I was like, man, you're tearing an offensive line apart when they can't even be on the same beat.
They're hitting each
Like,
other.
Yeah, when they're off sync, you've disrupted that team.
So the question was about Cousins and how important it is for him to get the locker room and the rest of the team and the defense and everybody sort of believing in him. I think this is a huge opportunity for Kirk Cousins.
I agree. I think he just needs to keep doing what he's doing. And I don't agree. I think people are kind of upset because Kirk Cousins deserves more respect than being called a game manager. At this point, this year, let's just say this year, what has he really done?
Agreed.
He's done nothing. So I'm not even calling him a game manager. Listen, don't get tripped on again. Okay, I'm glad you held on to the ball. That could have started the game off way wrong.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
had
almost
you
went bad.
fumbled that ball, I feel like that game goes differently for some reason.
Absolutely.
In my mind, when he fell down, I go, oh my God, this is it. They fell for the trap. Right? But he held on to the ball. So I go, oh, you know what? Maybe he didn't. He held on to the ball. Good job.
And they were given a Raiders penalty. They would have gone 3 and out, but then the Raiders were like, oh, no.
Right.
We're not going to allow you to
extend
go
the
3 and
drive,
out.
get him going. It's just, when you look at this team and you're going into a hostile environment because this team is fresh off a good win and they know it's at stake. I think they're pissed off about how the Packers game went. They kind of just realized it hit them. So I think when you go in there, you say, hey, listen, let's keep it short. Let's keep it sweet. Let's keep it simple. Let's do a lot of zones, a lot of RPOs, and that's it. After that, we are not heaving this ball anywhere. If we're doing play action, if you notice, they had a lot of hiders this week.
They did. They had
Irv
your
Smith.
hiders.
Hey, you know what? You're welcome. Irv, you're welcome. Simple job. I know I saw you doing it a couple times. I was like, God, anybody could have done that.
Nailed it.
But, you gotta have quick answers for him for everything.
Well, the tight end group is really fascinating because in this scheme, you expect it to be tons of 2 tight end sets, even some 3 tight end sets. And I guess just early on, it didn't translate to that, but we did start to see Irv Smith get involved more in the passing game. He caught a couple more balls than he did previously in Green Bay and against Atlanta. How important is that group going to be predicated off of the tight end screens? I mean, I know you were talking about just like get it out quickly, methodical type passing attack. To be able to, get guys out to the edge, take advantage of some of that speed and spread things out a little bit. Like, what do you truly look at here from Conklin, Smith, and Rudolph?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. We saw Rudy run this last weekend. He's slow. He's always been slow. Like he was like, I scored that touchdown, dude. You were lucky to get to the 1. Okay, I love you, but you were lucky. When you're looking at these guys, a tight end screen every now and then is great because it slows up the D line. But you can't do too many because everyone starts to bite on that eventually. Mm-hmm. When you have your tight end staying in too many times, they're like, hey, listen, nobody lets their tight end block this much. So it's got to be a screen or they really are just this bad. So then everybody hangs around the tight end because they think, okay, there's no way you can keep this guy in this much. Like you're losing in a threat somewhere. So I think, maybe once or twice a game. After that, chips across the middle, quick things, hey, listen, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, those, quick stick routes, we need something. Give it to them. Those are big guys. They're mismatches for a defense. We need to use them more.
Well, that's the one thing I pull away from, especially that game last year in Soldier Field. I think it was week 11, where we're watching the max protection just constantly throughout the game. And there were certain times, I don't guess it's a product of play calling, whatever, where Kyle Rudolph's left one-on-one with Khalil Mack. Not a good situation for any tight end to be in. And, you certainly expect them to chip and kind of carry their weight on that too. What impresses you the most about Irv Smith as a blocker right now in kind of giving you the confidence knowing that he can be that guy in certain roles when they're bringing extra guys to the line of scrimmage to help block against a really good defensive line?
Oh, yeah, especially this week when you talk about a good D-line, he's going to be huge. I mean, when you can get a mismatch of tight ends, and, people always say, when you bring one to the party, and by one to the party, I mean a tight end, because when you're looking at an offense, coaches used to say this all the time, when you bring one to the party, and that's a tight end, you're going to bring a visitor, and that's somebody from the defense. So who's going to show up? And normally it's a safety. And that's still a mismatch because I'll take Dalvin Cook on a safety. That doesn't scare me. I'll take Dalvin Cook on a linebacker. Hell, I'd put him on Kendricks right now. I love Kendricks. I think he's showing up everywhere. But I think that Dalvin Cook right now can run anybody over. So you talk about these 2 tight end sets. Who cares? Let him bring the strong safety down here. If he wants to party with us, he's going to get ran over like everybody else. And now you have the whole new play selection because you got 2 tight ends. We can start cracking guys down and pulling tackles. We can pull guards. We can run G plays. We can run counters. We can run backside zones. And we can run You can run crunches and traps and whams out of a 2 tight end set. You can run some of the greatest plays you'll ever think of. I swear to God.
Football.
Oh, man.
It's intense.
So much football right there. But I think that's what they're going to have to do is the two tight end sets because they only have 3 wide receivers and Laquan Treadwell, which means 3 wide receivers.
Yes, means
that they could play.
Do we even anticipate Treadwell being active?
No way.
Well, he might be active.
Does he make
but
the 46?
He's not getting on the field.
No
way.
I don't think. I mean, unless he remembers the special teams assignments, then maybe. But I can't see him. I saw a lot of Vikings fans being like, what? It's like, look, he's not going to play.
It's literally
okay?
the lowest risk move possible. They were already paying him.
Yeah. you
How
might as well.
awkward, though.
Very awkward.
Said the
We were
same
talking about
Hey,
this earlier.
LeBron, welcome back.
What's
We
up,
were
buddy?
just kidding. The question is, they're going to be like, hey, listen, should we give you a test now or at the end of the week? How many plays can you remember from that book?
He couldn't remember him when he was on the team.
Well,
God,
either
so
that or he
sad.
dropped them all.
Oh, he's terrible.
Can you imagine being a first round pick and only getting a workout with Detroit?
He had one with the Bills.
Okay.
So only with Detroit still. Hey, they're 3-0. It's fine.
It stands.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So are the Bills.
against the Jets, Giants, and Cincinnati. I think Buffalo has
Yes.
beaten so far. So, but either way, you can only get tryouts. No one even signs you after you were a first round pick, and then they bring him back here basically because he knows the offense, and maybe when Chad Beebe's healthy, he'll be gone again, or Josh Doxson. But not the point. It's that Irv Smith now, Alex, becomes one of the most important players for this offense. And going back and watching the game again this morning, I was looking at Irv Smith, and I just think he's been really impressive in when he caught the ball and made plays, yards after catch, but even more so in run blocking. And if this guy can actually run block, you now have a huge asset on your hands, I think.
Absolutely. And, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I went back this morning and watched the game, too. There was a lot of zone plays where he gets in a great position. I mean, this kid's athletic. He can move, and he's strong when he's moving. And that's the important thing about a zone block because you're going to be moving somewhere. So you have to be physically strong while you're running around with someone. But you look at these power plays. They need to get this power scheme going more. It's not going anywhere. Like I'm watching, guys pull around and they're running into tackles, or I'm watching the running back run into a hole and there's 3 guys waiting for him. I mean, you can't just eventually people are going to cut your zone play off. Like, okay, hey, listen, everybody's going to start falling in the hole. That's the next thing. Linebackers start cutting people. They start cutting the fullbacks. They start cutting the running backs. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, hey, listen, we got to change it up. So then we start pulling to the outside. You got tackles going outside. Eventually you're going to have to come back to the middle of the field.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do, you got to clean it up.
And that's where this week they're going to have some major issues doing that. I mean, to me, it just seems impossible. Akeem Hicks was hurt, but it seems like he's going to be able to play. Eddie Goldman is also a monster. You would have played against these guys. I mean,
I did.
How tough is that, right? I mean, Goldman is gigantic. Hicks is a complete beast, one of the top, I think, 3 players at his position in the league. How tough is that 3-man front there? And then you add, of course, Khalil Mack into the mix. You didn't play against him, but then now he's part of that defense that was already good when you would have gone against them.
Yeah, no, I played Khalil when he was in Oakland, and that was back before he really had any counter moves or knew how strong he was, so that doesn't really count. But to Akeem Hicks, I played Akeem when he was down in the Saints, and that was before he realized how good he was, and that's when we used to beat the crap out of him. But he used to do this thing where he would start 5 yards off the ball, and he'd be standing up. And, I mean, he all 6'8" frame of him, 315, okay, maybe 350 pounds. And on the snap, he would run as fast as he could. He'd just try to bulldozer you. And I don't know why, but we used to have so much fun with this guy. Like, he would do stuff like that. We would cut him, or we would pretend to cut him. Like, and now all of a sudden he's just destroying people, so he's realized how good he is. But you want to talk about guys that are hard to move. They're instinctually good at finding the ball. They understand their weight. Like, Akeem's so hard to move because he knows that when he drops his hips, you're not moving him. There is nobody that can move him when he drops his hips. So as long as he knows where the ball is going to be a roundabout, he'll get to his spot and drop his hips. And then you're like, okay, well, somebody's just going to have to run around you, dude, because I can't move you. I physically cannot move you right now.
Yeah, and that's what happened in both games last year, is that they physically could not move him a single inch.
But you know how you get him? This is how you get him. You get the toss plays going.
Mm-hmm.
Greg Roman used to say, get the fat boys running. And that was so true because once they get running, they become distorted, right? They're like, listen, I don't know if it's outside or inside. I don't know if it's power or counter. Like, when you get them moving, for some reason, their brain is like all over the field then. And they're like, man, I got to make plays. I got to shut this down. Now the linebackers aren't making plays. Now they're gaining yards. that takes them out of their element. When you're running tight zone and, ISOs, that's their game. Yeah, dude, I don't want to move. I want to stay right here. Get me running. Now you got problems.